What's good YouTube, Steel here, and in today's video we're tackling the first of 3 different Arceus decks in the Expert Solo Battle missions for Triumphant Light. This one pairs Arceus alongside Infernape EX and Heatran, and due to the primary fire typing, the missions we're tackling for this one are using all grass types and 3 diamonds or less. Trust me when I tell you that I found the best deck to do both tasks at once, but before I get into that list and why I chose certain cards, we have to look at the list that we're going against. And that list consists of, like I said, Infernape EX. Infernape EX, honestly, if they build it up way too fast on curve, this deck feels almost unstoppable as the 140 damage starts getting a little out of hand. However, there is a few tools that we added to try to kind of mitigate that, but ultimately your best attempt will be when they don't get to set it up fast enough or at all. In the games that you do get lucky and they don't just start out Chimchar and build up to Infernape immediately, you do have to deal with Heatran. Heatran at face value doesn't apply too much pressure, but the fact that it has free retreat lets them play around with their board as they see fit. As well as if you deal any damage to it, it starts swinging way too hard for any of your grass Pokemon to actually stand a chance. So we do also play around that as well. And their last Pokemon is Arceus, that for whatever reason the computer refuses to charge up and will do anything in its power to get it out the way. And that's something we have to keep in mind when building our deck. And although I can't explain why they do this with Arceus, it does go a long way in why we chose the deck we did and why it's successful. Things to know is that the only real target that they have for relief is Arceus, and trust me, they'll go out of their way to make sure that Arceus is not in the front line. And they go as far as using Dawn to ramp up the Arceus to 2 energy just to get it out the way. With all that in mind, I think you could collectively put together a strategy that consistently beats it, as well as makes the most of when their best hand is a little too much to deal with. And that deck comes in the form of Victreebel. And some of you might have realized that as I kept alluding to the fact of how badly Arceus wants to be out of the active spot. They do anything in their power to get rid of it. So as long as we establish Victreebel, you keep dragging that Arceus back and it's never an offensive threat. If anything, it just stands there while they build up their Heatrans and Chimchars in the background. And realistically, if they start Chimchar and just go into Infernape, it gets really ugly. And there's some safety measures to try to combat that. And also there's an example in the video of how that exactly works. But best case scenario, they start with some combination of Arceus and Heatran. And you just keep dragging out the Arceus and hitting it, poking it little by little. Some turns they will leaf and bring out the Heatran and poke for a little bit of damage. But since we're never actually dealing damage to the Heatran itself, it never deals more than 60 damage. And we're able to control the pace at which the game goes. And eventually it'll be enough to take the win. The reason for Dhelmise is that it happens to be the best fit for the deck in the terms that it's both a wall and able to do chip damage, which comes up sometimes early in the game if they lead Arceus, or late in the game once you are able to attack Arceus for 2 hits with Victreebel, leaving it at 20 HP, and somehow they answer the Victreebel, you're able to use Dhelmise to finish it out. As well as the rare occasion where you start applying energies to it in the back line and eventually it swings for 90, but personally that never came up. Honestly, it's just the fact that it has 100 HP with Cape 120, which makes it last long enough for you to build up your victory in the back. When it comes to the 3 supporters that are a little flexible, we have Leaf, Cyrus, and Blue. Leaf is only because Dhelmise has a 2 retreat cost. If we were playing Scyther, which was another basic that I was considering in the deck, but I didn't believe the lower retreat cost nor the lower HP made up for the extra 10 damage in the swing. So I ultimately decided for the Dhelmise with Leaf rather than Scyther with XP, but that's another preference thing that you could decide to switch around if you feel more comfortable. The Cyrus is for the situation where I explained where Victreebel isn't able to knock out Arceus unless it hits it 3 times. So there will be times where you hit it twice, they find a way to knock out your Victreebel, or you could afford to let them knock out your Victreebel, and then the Cyrus comes in to bring it out to just 20 HP, and you either knock it out with Dhelmise or an unevolved Bellsprout. Like I mentioned when breaking down their deck, they have no cape or potion, so once Victreebel hits Arceus, that HP stays at where it's at, and you're able to take full advantage of it later in the game. Blue is for the rare occasion where you stick around for an Infernape matchup, and it's the only way you're going to win, as Cape with Blue is the only way that your Victreebel is able to withstand the attack of an Infernape. If you time it properly, you're able to sacrifice something before bringing out Victreebel, and then you're able to set up the Blue Cape play, as well as outpace them recharging that Infernape. And if my words don't do it justice, there will be an example of it in the gameplay, so hopefully you get a better idea of the importance of Blue. But it's also valid to concede in games where the opponent gets to Infernape way too quickly, and just retry until they get the start where it's just Arceus and Heatrans, which is a much more manageable board state where this deck is almost exclusively built to take advantage of. With that said, I pretty much broke down why I chose the cards I did and what makes them geared for this challenge specifically. If you have any further questions on certain choices or any substitutions that you could make, feel free to ask them down below and I'll answer as soon as I see them. If this content helped you or you enjoy all things Pokemon Pocket, please consider subscribing as it helps a lot, and above all else, stay pro. Alright, we go second. But again, it's one of those where it doesn't matter too much whether we go first or second. What matters more is what they start with. Okay, Arceus, and that's that Heatran. Okay, double Arceus, that's probably the best start that this deck could have. I mean, for us, right? The best start we could have is what I'm trying to get at. And I'm trying to show y'all how to make the most of it. Let's go research just to see a couple cards here, but it's pretty straightforward from this point on. No need to use any of that stuff. We could cape, but right now it's a little too early to do so. Alright, Heat Train we're okay with. What we fear the most is like like a very fast Infernape build. Like once they've set that up, it's a little rough. The good thing now is that if they were to Infernape now, we're in a position where, like, I mean, if they Chimchar now, the following turn we just drag it out and eat it. So we're fine with that. The blue is for the situation where they go Infernape too fast. It's like the only way Victreebel survives those swings. As to whether it's worth it, I'm gonna be full transparency. It's one of the cards that I'm not sold on completely. It's just they don't always open like this. If they did, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's the blue is for when like Chimchar comes up that you just need to survive somehow, some way, somehow, right? All right, so let's go Victreebel here. That's Erica up. No reason to be so low, especially when we have the space for like to fully heal the 50. Just put Bellsprout down, cape it as well, and start building it up. And then Heat Train we never swing at, so let's go Fragrance Trap. Bring out Arceus. And deal a quick little 60 there. Now we have two options. And it's either to knock out this Arceus and hope that they play down a Chimchar, but realistically our best option is to just start hitting the other Arceus. Especially now that we saw Cyrus. And again, it's huge that they already used the leaf. The only issue is that they do have multiple ways of like getting Arceus out with not only their second leaf, but their two Dons that they've yet to use. Okay, that's the second leaf though, so that's very promising. Hopefully we get we're able to set up the second Victreebel in the meantime. The Ericas though is what's gonna keep us in the game though. Never know when you get back down there. Fragrance Trap. So yeah, at this point, it's you get the idea. Like this is like best case scenario for the deck again. And early Chimchar is really rough on us, but other than that, everything's very winnable. Especially like now this following turn, if we're able to knock them out, and you'll see how like them playing seeing a Chimchar is just game. But we already have it set up where there's no way we lose this because. Yeah, there's just no way, and there's like no way I could explain it like any better. Communication here doesn't promise anything because it's either the second Weeping Bow, which would be great, or the Dhelmise, which is not the worst either. But yeah, let's just get one of our knockouts. And yeah, and we just repeat that again next turn. So yeah, what this list is meant to do, which I probably explained in the deck profile, is take full advantage of like their lack of like accessibility with Arceus. The fact that when Arceus is on the board, they can't really do much with it. So we just keep dragging it out and forcing them to function with it. And once they're stuck in that loop, it's very hard for them to actually get anything going. It's when they start with just a pure Chimchar and like by turn. Before you even get Victreebel out, they're already at Infernape. That it's just like, okay, well, we lost, right? But yeah, you see, in this case, we could even like grab Chimchar. That's why like a late game Chimchar we're okay with. It's when they start with it and they have the perfect line that this deck starts to falter very fast, which is why there's like the blue angle, but it doesn't usually come up. Another going second example, but let's see if we could. Finally find a Chimchar game. Okay, so now they opened all three, right? And this Heat Train's a menace that we can't hit because once we poke the Heat Train, it gets, especially now with Helmet, we were never swinging at that, so it becomes a game of like building up Bellsprout in the back, or even like Dhelmise to swing. But yeah, let's focus here. Dhelmise at this point is just a wall that's gonna stand there for as long as possible. Meanwhile, they're building their Infernape, so hopefully it all comes together. We want Weeping Bell and the Cape. Scripted. We could even start building Dhelmise. Although it might not be for... It might be all for naught, right? So let's go... Let's focus on what we can. Which is that, yeah. We'll start building Dhelmise after the fact. Okay, so there's the Infernape as expected. A second Arceus. Alright, so here we're at a point where we know they can't swing the following turn. And we'll try to use that to our advantage. And at the same time, we gotta hope for like another bench Pokemon, which is the only one we have access to is a second Bellsprout. Which, nowhere to be found, but... Alright, so now they put in energy and pass. Okay, research. That works too. Pokeball. Okay, so that's another win condition that they don't talk about. Is the once we knock out this Infernape, we could keep putting these for no reason, but it is a thing. So yep, this is. The win condition is that this Infernape is gonna swing, leave us at 10 HP. We're gonna knock it out, and then on their turn they're just gonna put an. Actually, they have a way of knocking. Oh wait, no, we have Erica. Okay, so this is a perfect example on how this list is able to counter the Infernape play, and it just comes down to the fact that it's an AI that's gonna put the second Chimchar down. So, but it is what it is, right? We could communication and hope to see like just the second Bellsprout, just so like we don't lose to like some random card or variance that I'm not expecting. So there's the Bellsprout. That wasn't guaranteed, by the way, but also its necessity is also not guaranteed, right? So let's go here, and it all comes down to the AI should just put the Chimchar down and we just drag it out. And the importance of having the Erica when we did is the fact that had we not had Erica, they could have just dropped the Chimchar and like swapped it out. Like they could have knocked us out with the Chimchar. Okay, so they definitely have the Chimchar. Now, are they gonna put Chimchar or the second Heatran is the question. And there you go. They can't help themselves. It's like now I'm aware of how many cards have to come together for that to happen, but realistically, that's why I want to show you this example. Because I'll just say what's the best way to say it? I want to show you this example so that I have the build. Like I built the deck so that it wins in the best situation so that it wins in a situation where they don't have the Infernape out front immediately. But I built it, like gave it a few tech cards so that if that were to happen, you still have a chance to win. Ultimately, it's up to you whether you decide to just play it in a way where you just concede if they draw it way too well and just restart until the point where you just see that Arceus Heatran start that this deck just beats so well. Regardless, I tried to fine tune it in a way where you could win regardless of what they do. And hopefully it helps out. Hopefully you guys are able to win it. As you saw, we won sometimes without giving a single point. We won sometimes regardless of how fast they got to Infernape. It's all about having the patience that sometimes it's not going to go your way and you might lose a few more games than you want to. But eventually, trust me, this list will work. And honestly, I had a blast using Victreebel. It hasn't really come up since like the beginning of Mythical Island when like Flute showed up. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, consider subscribing if it helped you or if you like content like this. And above all else, stay pro.